My story started pretty pretty young, right? I was born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. Grew up absolutely dirt poor, and I had an older brother. I had two older brothers, one half brother and a natural sibling, and all of us grew up in Jacksonville. Growing up in Jacksonville, you know, we only had a mom, our mother. She raised us by herself, all three of us, the best that she could. She was an alcoholic, and she did the best, raising three boys. My mom passed away when I was 12 years old in 1985, and I actually woke up on December the 7th, 1985, and pulled the covers back, and there was my mom. And so ever since then, I've been on my own. My brother and I, we went to go live with my aunt, but she failed at that miserably. And my father was in prison, so there was no choice really but to live with friends of the family, which we did for a little while. And my brother, he was about a year and a half older than me, so he was much more the free spirit, and so he just went on his way, went on to do his thing at 16 years old. By that time, I'm 14 and a half, and really on my own. And that's when I discovered computers, right? Actually, I discovered computers about 3 years earlier, before my mother passed away. Never really gave any consideration to it other than any other normal kid at the age of 8, 9, 10. So it sat until my mother passed away, and before she passed away, the night actually that she passed away, she had come home from graduation. My half brother had graduated basic training at Fort Benning, and the thing she told me before she went to bed was she asked me how my computer studies were coming along, and I lied to her, right? And I said they were going great. In actuality, I really wasn't doing anything. Then she passed, right? And then you deal with what you can deal with when you're 12, 13 years old, and my outlet was computers. First, I withdrew like any other kid does, I guess, I don't know. And second of all, I began to master my computer. I had a TRS-80 Model 2, and I taught myself how to code BASIC. And for a couple years, that's where I was, right? When people would ask me if I was fine, yeah, I'm fine, yeah. But my grades were really disastrous. I had a couple friends that I really engaged with, but no one too in particular. But I did withdraw even more into my computer, right? I got an acoustical modem, connected that to a local bulletin board, and began to meet other people like me. And then, people ask about you, right? They want to know who you are, and back then the internet really wasn't what people think it is now. It was more or less dial-up boards, ARPANET, closed loop systems, things of that such. But I set up a bulletin board on a local BBS system, and at the ripe old age of 14, started to meet other hackers online. And I started to learn a lot of cool things, like telephone phreaking, like how to make free phone calls, I discovered a subculture of people who existed on the phone lines, on the telephone lines, where you could talk to someone, you know, in London or in Paris or in Georgia or LA, and you could meet these people on the telephone, on these telephone party lines, so to speak. And so that was, you know, I'm 14 years old, I'm learning how to freak telephone systems. Freaking telephone systems was a way to actually access the old telephone systems, the old bell systems, with special instructions and codes and methods, which have long since expired, since you know, the telephone system has gone digital. But so I'm 14 years old. I'm learning, you know, I'm learning how to, you know, code myself. I've set up a bulletin board. I'm meeting hackers, and I'm getting advice. I'm learning how to do things. I'm learning how to get the things that I need, right? Because I'm living with friends of the family, and they really, you know, they too themselves were barely able to support me, barely themselves as well. So everything that I had to do was for myself, right? Everything, from food to money for clothes, for school, everything. My entire existence depended on my willingness to make sure that I was taking care of myself. And so that's what I learned how to do. I learned how to, at the age of 15 years old, I took a Bell and Howell language master, and I learned how to reprogram credit cards to use them in stores and in ATMs, back before ATMs really had a dedicated ATM line to verify a transaction. And of course I would understand the batching process and all that. But that was 32 years ago. And I just learned how to manipulate things to get the things that I wanted, whether it was printing a UPC code for food from the store, which I needed, or doing the magnetic gas handle flip. Back in those days, when you needed gas for your car, there was a dial on the gas pump, and you would flip the dial on and off. Well, if you took an old-fashioned speaker magnet and set it next to the handle that would flip it up and engage the pump, the pump would begin to run to distribute gas in the hose, but the numbers wouldn't turn. And so that was, so I kept learning these tricks, right? I kept learning little tricks to survive, survivability tricks. Learning how to social engineer people to get what I wanted, whether it was access to a specific computer that I wanted to dial in to steal some files from, or whether or not it was to convince the supermarket manager that I had left some food behind, when in turn I actually hadn't, just so I could eat that night. So, you know, just growing up, meeting hackers online, people giving me what I felt like was worthwhile advice to survive, to be able to, you know, not wind up in a bad situation, and that's exactly how I kept myself from falling apart, from going under, living with, and all of the while, right, I'm still living with friends of the family. 1989 comes around, I'm 16, 17 years old. The friends of the family really had enough of me living there, so the official parting of ways, right? So there I am. I just turned 17 years old, and I'm on my own. I had a Chevrolet Chevette, a 1984 Chevrolet Chevette, no, a 1982 Chevrolet Chevette, powder blue, and all of my stuff was in there, and including my TRS 80 Model 2. I lived in my car for for the better part of the entire year of 1989. And it was tough, right? It was, you know, I dropped out of school. I began to lose focus. I began stealing cars, began using my skills in very unique fashions to obtain money quickly. Because when you're living in your car, what choice do you have? So yeah, I did that for about a year, and then I met a girl, and she became my girlfriend, and ultimately she became my wife, and she helped me realize what I was capable of doing, and her family took me in. And I went and got a job, you know, just bagging groceries and shit, and just kept doing that, right? You know, someone believing in me, you know, and still sticking to computers. I had a daughter, my daughter who turns 30 this December. My wife and I had a daughter, and I realized that you know, I needed to do better, needed to do more, provide more, and then I was asked to, and then a gentleman I met in Indiana invited me up to Chicago to take a look at his business to see what sort of technical advice I could give him for his business. And so I traveled to Chicago, sort of, you know, got to know him within several days. He got to know who I really was, about my background, and I went to work for him. And at this point, right, you know, now I have a job, right, and I'm doing. I'm setting up, you know, IT infrastructure for his company, and making sure that all of his offices connect, and not only that, but securely, right? Cybersecurity really wasn't a thing then. It was barely even mentioned, but you know, but cybersecurity to me, right, to what exists now, or what people realize as cybersecurity now, to me, is just an afterthought, or was an afterthought. Still sort of is, mentally speaking, because, you know, things that people are writing papers about, talking about, creating solutions about, these are all things that are built on technologies that were built when the internet was created, right? Everybody's, you know, talking about 1970s technology, and no one's really trying to fix the problem. Yeah, so I provided cybersecurity for him, his company, set up the whole deal, and then just started meeting new friends along the way in Chicago. That's how it is in Chicago. And one thing led to another. I met a gentleman named Willard Buddy Harper. And he worked at the CME in Chicago. He was one of the largest hog traders in the world, really. And he gave me an opportunity to create some special networks for the CME to connect to the NYSE. And so with that, after doing several of those, you know, they were really simple for me, but I created some ultra high-speed private networks that only the CME and the NYSE still use. And so he was impressed with that, and he's like, what else can you do? And I'm like...
Just so people know, the Chicago Mercantile Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange.
That is correct, yes. Yeah. So I set up 2 bidirectional unique fiber lines specifically for those 2 exchanges, and secured them. So yeah, he asked me what was next. So I'm like, hey, there's this thing called Bitcoin. It kind of piques my interest, and He asked me what I needed. I said, about $1 million would work, and he literally opened up a file cabinet and had $1 million, and he's like, all right, go to it. And that's what I did. At that point, I built a supercomputer that was able to mine Bitcoin. Mined about 5,000 Bitcoin, and at that point, I believe Bitcoin was trading at $200 to $300 a coin. And so he was impressed, and so was I, actually. And so we built 3 more. Over the next 8 months, I built 3 more and had them right there at 107 West Van Buren Street, across from the CME, and just sucking up electricity. But at the end of that 1.5 year run, we were able to mine close to 80,000 Bitcoin. So yeah, kind of, after a couple of years of doing that, I really felt a little sense of accomplishment, but I really didn't feel like I was done. So I ran into a gentleman. So I'm just I'm squandering around Chicago, right? I've made some Bitcoin. I'm hanging out, walking around the Loop, hanging out in Millennial Park, and just hanging out with my friends. And it kind of kicking back, and I met a gentleman, and he said, hey, our company needs a webmaster, right? And a webmaster is just basically someone who just does web work for a company. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, yeah, I'll come and be your webmaster, right? Because having a legitimate job completes who I am, right? I could sit around and do whatever I want to make money, but in the end, I think it's about working an honest 9 to 5. And so, yeah, hey Jackson, I'll go and be a webmaster at your software company. And so I went to work there as their webmaster, and it was hilarious, right? Their vice presidents, they're like, well, this is a very important job, and you should blah blah blah, and I'm, yes sir, and yes ma'am, and I really kept the ruse up as long as I could, but I was outed by a friend of mine that worked there. And he outed me to the marketing manager, and the marketing manager, she outed me to the entire staff. And eventually I became responsible for their cybersecurity practice. And so I'm like, well, shit, I guess I'm doing cybersecurity. So here I am doing cybersecurity for a software company in Chicago, unintended, right? But honing my skills, right? Figuring out the best method for to stand up specific protocols and systems and things of that nature from a cybersecurity perspective. And so that's what I did. Did it pretty well. But then they fired me. They fired me. And so yeah, it was kind of a thing between the owner and myself. He didn't like me, and I surely didn't like him. So now that that's public, I really didn't like him. So after that, right, I just took a couple gigs as cybersecurity, just kind of, just did my thing, packed up my stuff the entire time in Chicago, and came back to Jacksonville, and again, doing consulting with a company for cybersecurity, and I enjoy it. But that's what led me to where I am now, right, from some of those angles. I've been responsible for putting some heavy hitters away. I've worked with law enforcement in the past, some real heavy hitters. I'm really good at hunting hackers and finding people, and not finding just people, but finding the real hacker, right? The real hacker that's really causing mayhem. I'm that guy that looks for that hacker, and I do that very seriously and continue to do that because I provide my service not only for companies, right, but for celebrities and stars, right? They consult with me. I work with them personally. And to solve any cybersecurity questions or issues that they have. Some of the things that people don't understand is that everyone carries around a smartphone. watching Edward Snowden, you know, do all of this ridiculousness, hiding under covers and everything. Everyone should know that your smartphone is a PC, is a portable computer. And the things that smartphones are capable of doing are very terrifying. There just recently was an exploit that I had used for years for iOS that allowed me to actually listen in on your phone conversations, to read your SMS messages, to read your email, to actually see everything that you do on your iOS device. And those sort of exploits exists everywhere, in everything. Almost everything has a GPS chip in it. Almost every device has a chip in it. And if it has a chip in it, it can be exploited. And when things are exploited, sometimes devices, things, systems, and people are exploited for one reason or another. You know, there's a lot of things that are very scary out there. Right now there are people selling your information. They are selling your Wi-Fi network. They're selling your Wi-Fi credentials. They're selling your Ancestry.com genealogy data. They're selling all of that. There's the thing that people don't really understand is that there really is no more privacy in this world. Unless you go and live on an island somewhere in the South Pacific with no electricity and no other people, there are things to be taken advantage of, and systems and devices and so on. You know, it takes a professional car thief about 30 seconds to steal a car now, because you really don't need to hotwire anything or use a screwdriver or even a laptop. You can use an RF intercepting device, which could do a man-in-the-middle attack with just a key fob, and you can steal someone's, $150,000 car with that. The technology stacks out there are endless that are being taken advantage of. Most notably are the cellular systems, the mobile systems. What people carry around most contain the most value and the most data. Putting your information on TikTok, creating a TikTok account and filming from so many locations, you don't realize what you're really doing is you're really giving everything that you hold possessive and private out to the world, and that's where we see people being attacked, people being their bank accounts being compromised, etc. Speaking of bank accounts, a lot of people realize that when you log into your bank, and a lot of banks will really deny this, but banks actually have backdoors into your accounts, into your system. Just think about it for a moment. You log into your bank account, through suchandsuch.com, and you have to answer all of these ridiculous questions and get a two-factor SMS message sent to you so you can enter in the code. But people really don't realize is that banks also have backdoor access to where applications like your TurboTax and your money management software, all of that, how do you think that connects to your banks? And so with these backdoor connections into banks, things continue to be inherently insecure. We see data breaches every day where millions of people have their information stolen, and not only stolen, but sold and used against them. One of the things that we also have to realize is that we have quantum computers coming. Quantum computers will make all current and former encryption algorithms absolutely obsolete. So if you have something that you've encrypted in the past, or you have some encrypted files, and they've been anywhere on the internet, in a book, wherever someone else can access your encrypted files, well, very soon those files won't remain encrypted long. And so hopefully, those secrets were quite well encrypted. Websites have so many flaws in them. If you go, everybody needs a website nowadays. Everybody has a website to go to, their favorite website. Right now, about 90% of the web and the technologies that support them in your applications and websites, they're insecure. They're inherently insecure. Whether or not it's a web server running an open port or a misconfigured file on your server, there's something that there's a little bit of something out there for everyone to take advantage of, and now everyone is paying the price. Everyone now is becoming victims to these crimes, to where they thought they weren't a victim, where they never thought that they would actually potentially be a victim. The more mobile applications, the more people that are using the phones that the more people that use mobile devices require more mobile applications, require more data centers, require more servers for those applications to connect to. And those are all at risk. It really, all you have to do is, do a DNS query on anyone's web domain, and you can begin to uncover the pieces of how insecure most organizations and individuals are. People don't realize that they are, when they're at home, they put a password on their router, and they think that's it. That's, I'm safe, I'm secure. But no one really understands the context of, using an additional layer of protection like a VPN or some sort of ad blocking technology. And people don't realize that their IP address is basically like a flag out there on the internet for them, and for them to be